And Peter, why did you decide to reject it? And when? You've known about it since it was $1.
Well, first of all, some of us are advocating for sound money, and some of us just think they're advocating for sound money. But actually, before I answer your question, because a lot of people are even saying, why is Peter Schiff even at a Bitcoin conference, right? And so I got to tell you something, because I know this, I learned this from personal experience at this event, right? And this is not something I'm proud of, right? But this is a fact. Based on what I've been told by countless people who have asked me to pose for selfies with them, I am probably responsible for more people owning Bitcoin than any other person at this conference. And every time I tell you guys not to buy Bitcoin, you buy more. So you can thank me.
You're the inverse.
Blame me. But if you want to know the reason that I didn't buy Bitcoin when I first learned about it, and it wasn't Max Kaiser, he likes to credit, he wasn't Max Kaiser who told me about it. It was people at my Senate campaign in 2010 who were working with me, because some people were donating Bitcoin in 2010. I don't know what the hell happened to that Bitcoin, because I've tried to find it. And so people in my campaign said, Pete, why don't you buy some of this Bitcoin? Like, what the hell's that? And they explained it to me. And I actually thought about buying it. Like, it was, I don't know if it was $1, less than $1 more. I can't remember exactly. But the main reason I didn't just take a punt on it, and I thought about throwing 10 grand in or 50 grand. I don't know. I was going to buy some. And I remember asking the guy, told me, well, what's to stop somebody else from coming up with another one? I mean, can you have another cryptocurrency, or is it just Bitcoin? I said, no. I mean, you could just make another one and have another name and can have the same properties. So in other words, there's an unlimited number of cryptos that can be created. So it's not really that unique. It's just the first one. And they can make more. And they said, yeah, they can make more. And that was kind of what I said, well, then what do I, why buy it? And, and obviously, went way up. And the next time I thought about buying it was after it went up to 1,000 and it came down 300, 400. It was there for a couple of years. And some people I knew, smart people, investors, were buying it. And I was like, what are you buying this crap for? And I thought, but if they're buying it, maybe more fools will buy it. Maybe I should just buy some for the hell of it. And my biggest mental problem was I couldn't pay $400 for something that I didn't want to buy at $4. And so, but I just never could have imagined today, all of these people, right? Because I was telling people not to buy Bitcoin before most of you even knew what it was. And I never could have imagined that so many people would find so much value in nothing.
Trace, why? So Peter, Bitcoin is math. So do you not believe in math?
No, I believe in math. I just don't believe that Bitcoin has any value because you solve a mathematical equation to create one. Just like I don't think Bitcoin is energy just because you waste energy to make one. I disagree with what Trace said about, Bitcoin not being intangible. It is intangible, but that's not why it doesn't have value. I mean, intangible assets can be very valuable. And my problem with Bitcoin isn't the fact that it's not a tangible asset. It's because you can't really do anything with it. It doesn't have any real use. The only thing I can do with my Bitcoin is I can give it to somebody else. I mean, I can sell it to somebody, I can gift it to somebody, but what are they going to do with it? They can turn around and give it to somebody else or sell it to somebody else. But why does somebody want Bitcoin? Because they think that they're going to be able to turn around and sell it to somebody else at a higher price. And why does that person want it? Because he has the same expectation that he'll be able to sell it at a higher price. So everybody buys Bitcoin simply because they think that someone else will pay more. And so it's just a giant, literally a blockchain letter. It's built on the same foundation as a pyramid scheme. And now you've got all these Bitcoin treasury companies now that are basically pyramiding the Ponzi's. And everybody is buying this with the expectations that they're going to get rich. And a lot of people have gotten rich if they bought it early enough. But JD Vance was here this morning talking about all the wealth that has been created by Bitcoin and crypto. No wealth has been created. I don't care how many of these coins are in existence. They're not wealth. They're not value. But a lot of wealth has been transferred A lot of people who bought or created these tokens and who sold them got wealthy because the wealth of the buyer was transferred to the seller. So it's like we're in Vegas. This is a gigantic casino, right? And the casinos, you have winners and losers, but then you have the house that rakes everything. But some people make money because other people lose money. That's how crypto works. People are going to make money who get in early, but those gains are going to be offset by the losses of all the people that get in late. Now, the question is, and you can look around this room and see all the people here and all the money that's been spent on all these booths and ask yourself, am I early or am I late? Right? Because if you're late, you're the bag holder. And if you really think that you're going to come to this conference and have 300,000 people here one day, I mean, I've never been to a conference this big. You know, the biggest gold conference I go to maybe has 600-700 people.
Exactly.
But you know, when I went after this conference is over, when you go home, go on YouTube and look up Peter Schiff Mortgage Bankers, because I came to the Western Regional Mortgage Bankers convention at the Mirage when that used to be a big hotel back then in 2006, and I came there. Right, under the same, dynamic I'm coming here. I came there to tell a bunch of people whose livelihood depended on mortgage finance that the housing bubble was going to pop and that mortgages were going to collapse and that they were all going to be out of work. And I remember telling them that, in a couple of years, they'll be able to have the whole conference in just one hotel room, because I knew it was a bubble. And I came there and I made a deal with the company. I said, I will come to your conference with for one reason. You got to give me a room to tell people about the hedge fund that I just started to short the subprime market, because I think that people who are in the mortgage market should put a little bit of the money on the don't pass side, because I think they should hedge their careers and because I have a great investment for them to bet that subprime collapses.
Okay.
So
we called out the housing bubble. We know that. We're calling out the sovereign debt bubble, the fiat bubble, right? Nothing has destroyed. No, hold on. Nothing has destroyed wealth for the majority more than fiat. Okay, and I personally believe that the reason we have fiat is because of gold's fatal flaw, because it is physical, because it requires papering over and creating liabilities. So how do you answer for that flaw in a digital economy?
Gold doesn't have a flaw. Humans have flaws. And what gives fiat currency value is belief. Fiat currency ultimately has value, not necessarily because the sovereign issues it and demands that taxes be paid in it, but ultimately what gives a fiat currency value, as opposed to a real currency, a legitimate currency that derives its value from the money that backs it up. The money would be gold, and then you would have currency that's redeemable in gold. Fiat currency has value because people believe in it, because people have faith in it. And that is the only reason that Bitcoin has value. Bitcoin is fiat digital currency. Just because it's not issued by a government doesn't change the nature of what it is. But if you like blockchain, there is nothing that stops you from tokenizing gold, putting it on a blockchain, and using it as a medium of exchange and as a unit of account. It is a great store of value, which Bitcoin can never be, because you can't store what you don't have. But if you want to use tokenized gold, it is faster and cheaper than Bitcoin. So I can pay and get paid. I can send and receive money instantly around the world with tokenized gold. You don't have to move the gold. You just have to move the ownership of the gold.
All right. Comments, Peter?
Well, first of all, you said that both gold and Bitcoin have intrinsic value, and that's not the case. Bitcoin doesn't have any intrinsic value. That's always been my problem with it. One is that, all you can do is, you can send it to somebody else. Whereas gold is money because it's the most liquid commodity. Gold was a valuable commodity before we discovered that we could use it as money. But gold is used in industry, not just jewelry. That's probably 50% of the use. But gold is used in aerospace. It's used in computer business. It's used in medicine. It's used in dentistry. It's the most valuable, the most useful metal that we have. And what's special about it is that it doesn't lose those properties over time. In 1,000 years, the gold that you have today will be just as useful as it is now. It doesn't rot. It doesn't decay. And so it's real. And yes, constitutionally, you're correct. I mean, gold is supposed to be money. It's the only thing that the states can make legal tender. The federal government has no constitutional authority to make anything legal tender. All the government can do, the federal government, is coin gold and silver. That's all it can do. So we have an unconstitutional system. We went off the gold standard. The dollar used to be defined. It wasn't that the dollar was backed by gold. The dollar was defined as a weight in gold. And before we had even the Federal Reserve, we had private banks that issued currency backed by gold, by real money, dollars on demand. And I've got no problem, if the people in this room, want to waste their money buying Bitcoin, fine, it's a free country. But where I do have a problem is when you bribe the politicians to buy Bitcoin with my money. Because I don't want to buy Bitcoin, and I don't think the U.S. government should be buying Bitcoin, and I don't think any of the state governments should be buying Bitcoin. It's kind of ironic that something that was created, to be anti-government is now completely dependent on government. I don't think we'd have Bitcoin over 100,000 right now if it wasn't for the election of Donald Trump and what's going on with the government to try to misdirect resources into Bitcoin, into crypto. And now all these companies like Strategy and other copycat companies that are levering up and issuing stock and borrowing money to accumulate Bitcoin, to the exclusion of other more valuable things. I mean, resources that are wasted on crypto are resources we can't use to build factories. We can't use those resources to create things that we actually need. And so now we have to run larger trade deficits to import more stuff that they're making in China, because we're wasting our time coming up with fart coin, and we're not creating things that people really need.
Now, Peter, the free market is telling you something. There are 30,000 people here. The White House has embraced Bitcoin. You have your own strategic Bitcoin reserve, which, by the way, who is sending Peter Bitcoin? Please stop. I mean, when are you going to say, okay, the market may be right, this is an emergent phenomenon, and it should be the market that decides, and maybe you're on the wrong side of that?
No, I mean, look, just because a lot of people believe something, that doesn't mean that I'm going to give in to the peer pressure to believe it too. But, you think that the whole world is in on Bitcoin. Look, I can tell you, when I walk down the streets of a busy city, maybe one person will recognize me during the day, right? Pretty much everybody in this room knows who I am. And so most people don't own Bitcoin, because if they did, everybody would recognize me when I'm walking down the street. But they don't, right? You get into an echo chamber, and the people who like Bitcoin surround themselves with other people who like Bitcoin, and they all reinforce the same delusion. And something like 50% of the people in the world that own Bitcoin live in America, right? Which is a pretty big number, and nothing we should be proud of as Americans. But so you get in a group, and it reinforces this mass delusion that everybody has. And to me, it's like a giant cult, and you're worshiping, this God, Satoshi Nakamoto is the Lord, and, everybody just believes. And I'm going to buy Bitcoin, and I'm never going to sell it. Never sell your Bitcoin. Yeah, you know who got you to never sell your Bitcoin? The whales that are selling you their Bitcoin. But where do you think all the Bitcoin is coming from that everybody is buying? It's the people who bought it a long time ago that are laughing all the way to the bank as they're selling you their worthless tokens.
Well, actually, Wall Street is buying from us. We got it before them, so that's pretty great. Trace, I'd love for you to respond to Peter before we wrap.